Welcome, everyone, to Profiles in Construction. I'm your host, Erik Backus, the director of the Construction Engineering Program at Clarkson University. This program is housed within the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at the institution. And the CEA program is a premier educational opportunity that builds quality graduates to be future industry leaders, delivering value to the civil infrastructure and building construction industry in order to build a brighter future. This is our second in the series of Profiles in Construction for this fall. We seek to share stories from people who have made an impact, and we hope to inspire a younger generation to pursue their education and career in an industry that, simply put, builds our world. I have with me today two professionals from the Wesson Group. The first is Ashley Delaney, who is a distinguished human resources professional with over 16 years of experience in the construction industry. A proud 2009 graduate of Clarkson University, she later earned her MBA from Colorado Technical University, further strengthening her foundation in business and organizational leadership. Ashley currently serves as a human resource director at the Wesson Group, where she drives workforce development initiatives and fosters a culture of leadership and operational excellence. Her passion for advancing careers in construction and empowering the workforce is matched by her deep commitment to service. Secondly, is Jeff Lanteigne, who is a seasoned construction executive with over 3 decades of experience in engineering, project management, and pre-construction services. Currently serving as a director of pre-construction services at the Wesson Group, Jeff leads proposal preparation, estimating, engineering, and the integration of emerging technologies. A people-focused leader, Jeff is deeply involved in mentoring interns and fostering professional growth within the company. Jeff brings a proven track record of delivering high-performance results through rigorous safety, quality, and risk management practices, and is recognized for his strategic approach to engineer procure construction projects in both public and private sectors. By the way, it's EPC for those who know the acronym. I didn't want to use the acronym without first spelling it out. So, both of you, welcome. Glad to have you here today.
Thanks, Erik, for the great intro.
Great, thanks. So let's start at this point with your stories. How did you each get interested in construction? Was there a particular moment or influence that sparked your interest? And what path did you follow in those first few years after school? Let's start with Ashley on this one.
Great. Thanks. Well, thanks for having us, Erik. So I'm a little different in that I grew up in construction. So growing up, my parents owned and operated a heavy highway construction company. And so that's really all I knew. So for me, it was an easy choice to get into construction as an industry. For me, it was more of what path do I want to take? Do I want to become a project manager, an estimator, an engineer of some sort? For me, I ended up in the human resources field because what I realized was calculus was not my strong suit when I tried taking it at Clarkson. And so I went into the business path and graduated with, back then, the degree was business and technology management. And I have minors in project management and psychology. So I also played volleyball at Clarkson. So that was a big draw for me to come up to the school.
Great.
Yeah, I graduated from Clarkson with civil environmental engineering degree, and spent 15 years in the consulting engineering world. Most of the 15 years was on the construction phases of projects, building water, wastewater treatment plants in New York State. Worked for a company in Central New York. Did that for about 12 years, and then the last 3 years I transitioned to the design phases of projects, and got my PE license, and through that realized I really wanted to do construction. So I got an opportunity to work for Delaney Construction, and through a couple of different acquisitions and startups, kind of have stayed under the Delaney roof of companies, I'd say, since for the last 17 or 18 years. So just having experienced both, I can say that I have way more fun on the construction side than I did on the consulting side. Another story, another time.
Yes, sure, absolutely. So let's go back to that choice, that fortuitous choice of you coming to Clarkson. Why did you choose Clarkson, and what interests you most about Clarkson University? We'll go with Jeff on this one to start.
Sure. I went to high school near Potsdam, Saranac Lake. Clarkson had I went back, back in 92, Clarkson had an amazing reputation as an engineering school. So that was the start of it. But personally, I really like the small town feel of Potsdam, and it suited me. Looked at schools like Syracuse and things like that, and didn't think I'd be a fit for that city lifestyle. Um, didn't realize how much that small town feel means until now as an employer, and we're going to talk about culture today. One of the reasons we really like to recruit out of Clarkson is the type of student that will go to school in remote area like Potsdam is the kind of student that gravitates to the culture here at the Wesson Group. And maybe we have a small town feel too, but has always seemed to be a very good match with the people we hire out of Clarkson.
Great. Ashley, your story of how you got here.
So, we just talked a little bit about how I wanted to go to school for business. So I had looked at a few other schools, and interesting, being coming from a family company, Clarkson, actually Delaney Construction recruited almost solely from Clarkson back then. And so the comment was made to me, well, you probably couldn't get in there anyways. And so it was a challenge accepted. I got in. I came up for Accepted Students Day and absolutely fell in love with the campus and the people. And from there, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. So,
Gotcha. Great. Yeah. So a little bit of legacy, but also the
yeah.
the place hit you right. So great stuff. So looking back, who are some mentors or key figures that shaped your journey, and what role did they play in your growth? Why don't we start with you, Ashley?
Yeah. So, obviously I have to kind of throw it out to my father. I watched him grow a company from, starting with septic tanks, to building some town roads and then growing into one of the premier emergency work contractors in New York to building wind farms. And so I watched him grow this company, and, when I watched him grow it, people would always say, "Oh, I just love working for Tim." And it was that idea of I love working for this family or this person and this group because they're treated well. And that really drew me into the HR side, was how, when you're treated well as a person and you want to stay at an employer for so long, I think that really says something about their culture. And so, he really shaped me into who I am when it comes to the culture side and the HR side. Developing the people makes them want to stay, and that was a big deal for me. And then, I had an opportunity. Eric, I know you know the last name of DeStefano. Some of you will see it on your cafe in Shield, but families are very close with Harrison and Burroughs and Jeff DeStefano. And one summer I didn't have an internship, and he offered to give me an internship at H&B. And I got to ride around with him for the summer. And the amount that I got to learn from him just by riding in a vehicle and listening to cell phone conversations and attending meetings and sitting in the back, it was invaluable. And he taught me a couple lessons that I still use today in leadership. And just having that availability to do that for a summer was pretty unique.
That's a ride along I would love to have,
Yeah,
for sure.
it was entertaining.
All right, Jeff. How about some mentors on your side?
Yeah, I go back to my consulting days when I was in a co-op at this company, and then was hired after graduation. There was a partner there, so there was a big separation of us on the org chart, and he always took the time to delegate things to me, like writing a letter for him and drafting it, and took the time to review it and redline it. I mean, it looked like somebody bled all over the letter I wrote, but I always look back, it was just amazing that that man could have written that letter in 2 minutes, but he took 20 to work with me and develop me. Uh, I do that same thing now because of that, and taught me not just about the coaching and mentoring aspect of that, but the delegation part of it. Ashley would know this, but I was known as a horrible delegator through my career. And I would actually, ask my people, "What's keeping you up at night? Let me take that off your plate. I'll take care of it." That's a horrible habit, and I didn't learn it till 3 or 4 years ago, honestly, what I was robbing the people under me of the opportunity to develop and be challenged and figure things out and learn how to solve problems. And it's just been a huge change in my life, and honestly, a huge change in the culture in my department now that I don't do the hard stuff for everybody. And then just watch empowering everybody and watch them grow. Just been amazing. But really get back to that first experience, 30 some years ago with that man taking the time to coach me. It was really impactful.
Yeah, we don't give enough credit sometimes to it means by coaching. A lot of times, letting you have a chance to stumble and fall a little bit, so then pick yourself up and go from there. So that's great to have that skill set. We'll stay with you, Jeff. The next question is: can you each share a moment in your career where company culture made a significant impact, either positive or negative? Go either way you want to go with this one on your growth or job satisfaction.
Yeah, I struggled with finding that specific moment, but I gravitated towards the job satisfaction thing. And just to tail on to what I was just talking about, um, my team here that I work with now, and I get great satisfaction every day of the culture we've created here, of accountability. I know I can count on them to do what they're supposed to be doing. Um, created a culture with free thought, the environment to be able to ask questions, ask for help. Um, yeah, I didn't have a single moment, but for job satisfaction, every day I come to work is a moment for me. Actually just love it, and the team and how we work together here.
Ashley, your moment. Or
Yeah.
moment.
I love Jeff's, by the way. I just have to say, he is one of the it's awesome working with him because he takes the time to teach people, and it could be nonsense. We have, Jeff's lesson of the week or whatever, and sometimes it has nothing to do with construction, but gosh, the guy knows a lot and he loves to just talk about it with people. Um, so a few years ago, I had gone through a pretty rough patch in my life, and I wasn't in a great place, and it was really showing at work. And I had an opportunity to go to a 4-day boot camp, and it's called Grinnell Leadership. And at first, I was like, "Are you kidding me? I have to go to this thing? Like I'm the HR person." And at first, it was a negative for me because I thought to myself, "This is punishment." And it's turned into be one of the biggest blessings I've ever had to go to this boot camp. And it really focused in not on anything professional, but on yourself and self awareness, emotional intelligence, getting to know who you are, why you are the way you are, your self limiting beliefs, and how those trigger you every day and your behaviors. And at the end, they give you feedback. You ask, 20 people in your organization for feedback. And I got to read that feedback and take it as it was hard to hear at first, but when you realize that everybody just wants to help you grow. And so when you put that lens on some of the feedback that you get and why you're getting it, this company took the time to send me to this place since then, I think, Jeff, what, 7 or 8 of us have gone to this boot camp.
Yep.
But it really ended up being a blessing for me and made a very big impact, both on my growth personally and my job satisfaction, because I've gotten to know myself better, but also I can work better with my team because I understand them and myself a little bit more. So, um, it was a pretty unique opportunity we got to have.
Cool. Cool. Let's turn it to then a specific question to you related to development. I think a little bit. You've worked in HR for over 16 years in the construction industry. Wow, that's a testament right there. How have you seen company culture evolve in this industry, and what are the biggest changes and trends you're seeing, and how culture is changing in our construction companies?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if you look back 20 years ago, uh, the culture was totally different, right? We'll talk safety, it was just get it done. It doesn't really matter how it gets done or by who or what, it's just get it done. Um, and that doesn't happen anymore. right? So at the Wesson Group, every single person in our company has the right to the authority to stop work. If you have a question or you have a concern, you stop work. That never used to happen. I think the other thing too I see a lot is no one's yelling at each other, right? Construction used to be known for yelling and pull your pants up, suck it up, buddy, figure it out. That doesn't happen anymore. You might get a little excited at times, but no one's yelling at each other. And that culture of respect, especially here, has really been cool to see that transition. Um, and along with that, the use of technology. I mean, Jeff can talk a little bit more about it. He really does a lot of our, integration with technologies. But 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when all of a sudden all the superintendents had iPads instead of, big plan sets and paper documents, and it took a minute, but now they're some of our biggest proponent. Like, these guys are our cheerleaders. They are the ones that want the technology, that say, this makes life easier, guys. We have to use it. And so it's really cool to see some of the older generation turn into the leaders and the champions of the technology programs. Um, and along with some of that, the older generation used to just say, I'm done, on to the next. Some of our older generations, especially in our superintendents in the field, the amount that they want to mentor and teach the younger generation. That mentorship, it's been around, but it's never been valued or celebrated the way it is now by some of these guys. They realize they're not going to retire until their replacement is trained. And so that transfer of knowledge is huge. And that didn't always used to happen when I first started in the industry.
Yeah, I think the other thing is the mix and diversity we see in the industry is definitely having an impact, right? People bring different values and backgrounds is certainly changing how we think about culture and how we make the job work well for everybody, right? So
Right. Absolutely. I'll say, Jeff, do you have anything to add there?
No, I'm waiting for my.
yeah, his question is actually a turn
Hit me
of
next.
the field side of this, right?
Go
You've
ahead.
got 30 years in the field, so how do you define a great company culture within a construction firm? It actually kind of changed how it's changing, but how do you define it, and how does that definition change over time for you?
Yeah, I would say a change in mindset nowadays, the term servant leadership, where the leaders say, what can I do for you, not what you're going to do for me, to people that report to them. Huge change in mindset, and that environment, that culture around that, again, breeds to that psychologically safe environment, um, where it allows for free thought, discussion, no hesitation to ask for help, ask questions. Um, really gets everyone more on a level playing field, no matter where they are in the org chart, and to get their value, their input valued. One of the core behaviors at the Wesson Group is no silent disagreement. So if you're sitting in a meeting and you're not aligning with something being said, we hope to create an environment here where you can speak up. Most likely, it's a very good point and should be considered by the group. Um, Another great thing is in here, one of our core values is curiosity. So a company with a commitment to development and training and continuous learning, so that everyone's growing and developing as needed, is a great opportunity. And the wonderful thing is, from a business standpoint or an owner, with all that great environment and great collaboration and making a great culture for everyone, is uh, then the return on investment of all that is something I would call, in a term used in the industry, is discretionary effort. Discretionary effort is that, so you get someone putting in 100%. Well, you put them in the right environment and you get that, 110% we talk about, if that's possible or not. But, the person that wants to be at work and put in that extra effort is just, you reap dividends on that on the back end and bottom line, and retention and all of it. So it all is full circle to just a great business model, and something we like to focus on here.
Great. Maybe we could talk about this at the individual level. One of the things that is noted that you're involved a lot in mentoring interns, like so folks that aren't even in the fully got their feet in the door yet. And what is an environment? What's the environment that fosters true professional growth look like on the ground for these young people who are just getting their toes in? How's that work?
Yeah, our environment here, whether they're I work mostly out of our headquarters, but I visit the job offices, and it just comes down to like my original mentor way back when, taking the time to talk to them, get to know them. I walk in a job trailer, I know what this intern's golf handicap is and what the family boat is for this intern, and just opening it and just making them uh, comfortable and talking. They're in a new position, new roles. It's for me, that's a lot of it, and it really just comes down to time. Um, Ashley mentioned, Jeff's tips. It's often a highlight of some of the interns, and I just go down and talk to them about something about engineering or design or something complex they haven't thought about. Sometimes I might talk about like a story about a Chinese squat toilet or something. You never know, but you never know what you're going to get. But I just spend the time, and whether it's preaching to them about how many square feet there are in an acre and things like that they're going to use, or why a micropile is designed the way it is, who knows? But just it just comes down to taking the time, um, and creating an environment that fosters good dialogue.
Yeah, I think people don't recognize that time is probably one of the most valuable commodities. There's two parts of that. One is just the nature of how we relate to each other. We're going to actually interact on a personal level, get to know each other, we breathe each other air a little bit. But it's also money, meaning you're going to spend your resources, your time is, by the way, you're getting a paycheck for that. That costs money to do that. But really it's an investment in the future, right? You're just putting money in to make sure that person can give output, be good at their career, have opportunities for themselves, but also really promoting what you want to get done as a team. That's an important, and there's dollars in that. It's meaningful for sure. Um, so maybe you could think about this, Ashley. This question is for you. And by the way, audience, we really want to encourage you to put some questions in the chat. I haven't seen the chat very active. It seems really slow out there. There's several of you out there. There's 12 of you online. I'd love to have a question to stump Ashley and Jeff. That's the goal here. Please get those questions. I'll get to them. But the next question really for Ashley is, what are some innovative or practical ways companies are supporting employee well-being in such a demanding field like construction?
Yeah. Well, I think the big thing here is we all want work-life balance, right? It's what everybody says. I want a company that offers work-life balance. And I think it's, what does that look like to you? That looks different for everybody. And you can support people in different ways. So, you know, you can't build we build wind farms, right? That's essentially what the Wesson Group does. And you can't do that in the middle of winter. So we're going to have some long, tough weeks in the middle of summer. It's going to get ugly, but that's a short period of time. And we balance that by giving people some time in the winter. So, last year we had a staff meeting and everybody calls in. And I think there were 4 people at a ski mountain that day because it was, it's off time. And so, um, you balance it through the seasons as well. I think that's important is the seasonality of that up here. The other things that we can do, Jeff was talking about some of the interns golfing, especially these folks that work out of town. They golf 2 or 3 days a week with each other. Just encourage you once the work is over, they're not just going home or going to where they're staying in a hotel. They're all interacting with each other, getting to know each other, and creating that work family. If you're away from your real family, your family. We do a lot of company sponsored events. So if you follow us on social medias, we'll go to baseball games. I think they just bought tickets for some Bills games for some of the Western New York folks. We always send a ton of people to conferences. That's a big deal for us. Jeff talked about curiosity and training and education. So if there's a great conference like ConExpo will be coming up again this year. So the largest construction show every 3 years in Vegas. We'll send 25 people out there. So you're getting to know other people in the company, but also getting a little break, having some fun. That's a big part of it. I always look at you talk about work-life balance, synergy, work-life synergy, however you want to label it. Burnout happens not just from working a lot of hours, but from having, say, student loans, right? Um, and a lot of kids come out of college with a lot of student loans. And something that we do is we contribute to a student loan repayment plan. And I think to date, we've helped eight of our employees pay off their student loans before they even were 30 years old with this because it goes right to principal on the loans. That helps them develop their lives more, right? You're done paying student loans, you might get married, you might buy a house, you're starting your family sooner. And those things help encourage well-being because your life is moving on. And so it's important to us to look at the employee as a whole and not just say, here's the money for coming to work, but how can we help you develop as a human and progress in your life?
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to remember that we don't normally live to work. We try to work to live.
Yeah.
Um, but we spend most of our waking hours working with people, right? You got to earn a living and you're spending. So you might as well make it what you do at work is working well for you in your life. It fulfills your life in some way. So it's an adage that kind of gives this false dichotomy of it's one or the other. And the answer really is it's both. You need to have places where you can do both. And I think that's an important part of what companies need to do. And it's great to hear your thoughts on how you guys do that at the Wesson Group. And understanding there's times you got to surge for work and there's a time to surge for family and certain the other things you need to do in your life, which is boy, great. And how you take the time to grow throughout that is really great. So another question, and then we have a few audience questions coming in. Again, audience, I really encourage you to throw a few really tough questions here for us. What are some major accomplishments in your personal life that have impacted you for good or bad, either in work or at home, and how these accomplishments impact you in your careers? So we'll start with Jeff on this one.
Sure. Um, yeah, my my I guess favorite core value we have is integrity. And this story happened yesterday in my kitchen actually, and leads to what I'm going to get to. My son is graduating December from a another construction management program in New York. Sorry, Eric. Ashley will tell you I'm a little frugal, but
We could have made a
um,
good deal for you, Jeff. Don't you worry.
but he has accepted an offer for a contractor, vertical contractor in the central New York area. And we were having a discussion. We're very happy for him. It's a great company. And I had this thought in my that came out. I said, it'd be interesting for you, Owen, as you start your career, that we have a very unique last name, and you're going to see a lot of people that see your name and say, "Wow, I think is Jeff your dad?" And I told him, I go, I hope and I think that anyone that tells you that I've dealt with them in integrity in the past, and they have the utmost respect for me and hopefully the utmost respect for you. And this sort of has been impacting me the last 24 hours thinking about that, and I hope I have done that. And as I'm winding down someday, I hope I've left my mark on the industry in a respectful and integral method and way. And that is truly the biggest thing I preach around here too, is be able to look your client in the eye, look your coworker in the eye, look your trade partners in the eye. If you lose respect, you'll be surprised how small the world is we work in and how it can come back to haunt you. So that's probably my most impactful thing about my career, and hope I left a good mark for the Lanteigne name in the industry for my son.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Oh, you, Ashley.
So that's a hard one to follow, Jeff. Come on. Um, so, for me, I think early in my career, as I'm sure a lot of people do, things are kind of like, oh my gosh, this is wild, this is crazy, it's so stressful, these big things are happening, and that stress kind of piles up, right? It's a lot of things are a fire. And a handful of years ago, I started working with the veteran community, and recently have been elected. I'm now the president of of our honor flight hub for New York State and or in the Albany region. So just last weekend, I was actually in Washington D.C. with 90 people. 58 of them were veterans, 38 of which were Vietnam veterans. And I took them. Part of the trip is to go to the Vietnam Wall. And one of those gentlemen had his graphite and his strip of paper, and I hadn't seen anybody go name to name as much as he had. And I said to him, sir, can I help you? It seems like you've got quite a list. He said, yeah, I lost 26 people in Vietnam and I'd like to pay my respects to each of them. So I'm finding them all on the wall. When that's your perspective, right? When you have that experience and somebody's at the Vietnam Wall trying to find 26 names of somebody that he lost, you know, you sit in a meeting or you've made a small mistake here. Is it really that big of a deal? And it is. There's some things that can cost some money that are critical, right? You don't want to make major mistakes, but at the same time, I think having the perspective of, you know, I made a mistake, let's be honest and talk through it. And so we can work on a team and move on and have the perspective. And people here hear me say it all the time. If this is the worst thing that happens today, we're having a pretty gosh darn good day, aren't we? Because this is supposed to be fun. Construction, some of the things these guys, it's awesome. And I don't get to see it every day. I get to be in the main office the most of the time, but I get to go out in the field and watch a turbine be erected. And it's so freaking cool to see some of these cranes and the picks that they're doing. Like, you have to enjoy the cool things and the neat projects we get to be a part of and just have the perspective, how fortunate we are. I think, everybody on this is a Clarkson call. We have the ability to go to a great university, get a great degree, and have a great career. And a lot of people don't have those opportunities. So I think it's always important to kind of keep that perspective in mind. And if it's hard for you to find that sometimes, find a way to get involved and get that perspective from the outside, because I think it's really important as you develop your career, just to have that to get through the days that aren't as easy to get through.
Yeah, obviously being a veteran myself, I really appreciate what you're doing for the honor flights. And I mean, you're bringing back some memories. I was actually had a flashback dream a couple nights ago that we hadn't had in a while. And so you're hitting me a little bit in the soft spot there, but it is a meaningful thing to recognize that as stressful and as challenging as the industry is, we're not being shot at most days. We're not having to put people in caskets or in body bags getting on airplanes. And having had that experience myself, it does bring into perspective kind of what's going on and how privileged we really are to be able to be in a fantastic industry and do some amazing things and really make the world better for everybody. It's just quite exciting to be able to do that every day. Even if you're on the side and HR supporting that, that's an important part of the mission too. So we got some audience questions. Again, audience, please feel free to continue to pile on. First one's from Dave. This was geared for you, Ashley. And this is about Jeff, though. So, Jeff, you're not out of it. This is about Jeff. Ashley, what is your all-time favorite story that Jeff has told from one of his tips?
Oh, there's no all-time favorite. There's
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Well, those weren't tips; those were experiences. So we'll leave right for that. And one day I walked out, and he was talking to somebody about how. So I don't cook. Let's put that right out there. But Jeff is a phenomenal chef in all things that he does. And he was out there talking about smoking some sort of meat and hanging meat in his basement and how it was coming out and the whole process of curing the stuff. And everybody was so excited. And I was like, all I want is an example of this process. I don't know why there's not samples here. But, I walked out one day and that was a conversation. And I think they were maybe talking about the chips that go in the smoker, the wood chips, and how important that is, And then another day I walked out, and this was a while ago, we had a project where Jeff, it was out in, you're doing the septic upgrades out of the campgrounds.
Yep.
And all of a sudden there was a conversation about tie-ins to septics and importance of something. Again, engineering's not my, and everybody was so excited about it. And they were like, "Oh, I never thought of that. Let's do that." And I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" So it's the cool thing with Jeff is that he has such a wide variety of knowledge, and half of it's completely useless. And he is more than willing to share it all. But you were talking, Eric, about taking the time. And I think that's the most important part. I was out on a project site. They do let me out every once in a while into the wild here. And I walked onto the project site and Jeff was there. And, Jeff is the vice president of our company. We actually call him VP of the people because this man, just everybody loves him. And he's out there in his flannel and his vest and he's got his helmet on and he's hanging out with the interns, asking them what they did over the weekend. Everyone else is kind of sitting at a table having a meeting, and there's our vice president talking to the interns and saying, "What did you do that was cool this weekend? Talk to me about it." And he cares. But then he'll come out with useless knowledge after that. So, I'm sure a lot of people, actually, we've used that as a social media post a few times. What have you learned from Jeff? And the answers we get are always gold.
Cool. Well, it's good. And I think the other good thing about this type of thing, and I'll say this, is that if you can't make fun of yourself, you really need to check yourself, right? And I think the ability to have fun with it and make it something as a key part of who you are, it's awesome, right? So this next question's from Brian. It's to both of you. What changes have you noticed about company culture in recent years or since you started working at the Wesson Group? So Brian, I mean, Jeff, you probably have spent more time, you come to Wesson from somewhere else, but Ashley, you've been kind of in and out with the Delaney companies and of course now the Wesson Group. So kind of what are your thoughts? What change do you notice? Whoever wants to take it first, feel free to run with it.
The emphasis on emotional intelligence the last few years, and we were talking before the meeting area, Eric, how we're in people business, right? We happen to build things, but you're not doing it without the people. And, just putting the focus on the people, because without them, you're nothing. And, we've worked real hard right from our president on down. He's probably worked the hardest. Tim's old school, and it is hard work to change your mindset. But to be honest with you, the world's changing and we got to keep up with it. And I'd say that is the biggest change, to change the servant leadership and having a little empathy in what we do and treating people well and understanding that they're not just a tool. They're something you need to lead, right? Not manage. So that's the big difference I see. And I've been on the receiving end of the being managed. It's good to have a leader. So probably the biggest change I see.
Yeah, I think similar. For me, being a little bit on the other side is this term of soft skills used to be used all the time. Like you have to have soft skills. And most of you are civil engineers. That doesn't always come naturally. I don't really love the term soft skills. It's more people skills for me, right? And so watching that transition of people that are, engineers at heart, that are data folks that say, okay, this is who I am. And they use, so we use what's called the predictive index here at the Wesson Group, and it's a behaviors-based system. So you learn about your behaviors. No surprise probably to people that know me. I am a talker. I like to process things out loud. People that internalize and say, "Let me think on it for a night," drive me nuts. I'm like, just give me an answer, please. They can't do it. And until I learned some of this, right? So we sat down with our senior leadership team and we all took this predictive index, and very few of us are actually processors out loud. Most of the group are processors through thinking. And so understanding that changed the way that we don't require answers on the spot. If someone says, "Hey, can we get back together tomorrow and talk about it?" Where it used to drive me nuts, like, "Hey, we got to go. Let's make a call." It's like, you know what? You're right. Let's process that the way we all need to feel respected and make sure we get it done the right way. No big deal. And we have it from our president right down to our interns. They took part in it with us this year as well. So you're getting this information on how you behave so that you can share that with others. So now we've got people that are, civil engineers taking these answers, this predictive index, and looking at their team to see how their team functions. That's huge, and we're using it with our foremen in the field. Um, you know, it's a they're the ones building the work, so they need to know how each other works as well. It's not just an office or a leadership thing. This is, we're using it throughout the full company. And 10 years ago, I brought something like this to the table and I got laughed at. Now it's like, hey, this is a big deal and we need to be all in. And so it's really cool to see that shift.
Great, great. All right, another one I think is for both of you. What is one piece of advice you would give to young people entering the workforce about getting a sense of a company's culture before accepting that fateful job offer they take for the first time? How do they get to know your culture well? What's the way to do that?
Come intern with us.
Ye-
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, Ashley nailed it. We'll start with interns. We have a pretty aggressive internship program here, but we'll have an intern for a summer. We encourage them to go look elsewhere the next summer, or depending on what year they're in, so that they can really figure out the pond they want to fish in. That's a key one. That's not always available. So did have some thoughts. If you're in an interview, talking with a potential employer, you might ask them, do they have an org chart? Have them show it to you so you can see the path you might have. Standard operating procedures, training programs, do they focus on that? Are they going to develop you? Those are tips. I tell people, ask a potential employer on a scale of 1 to 10 how rigid they are on procedures, 10 being the worst. Like, there's a procedure for going to the bathroom. There's what we do. Or 1 is, woo, just winging it here. Yippee. You might get a sense if they say they're personally, I'd like to be in the 6 to 8 range, probably, some structure there. And, that structure allows for growth. Honestly, if they don't have it, that there's not set up for systems for growth. But just a few things you might ask. And I'd also say, if you're looking at a few offers, money isn't everything. Take the right offer, not the highest one. You might have to go with your gut. You might not have had an internship there, but you might say company size and family atmospheres. There, 30 people on the org chart, or 3,000. So just know what you're kind of looking for and kind of follow your gut there.
Yeah.
A couple of those things, the questions that asked in an interview might help you.
I'm going to piggyback off that too. What culture are you looking for is something I always ask. So, a company like ours, we do work primarily in New York. We're a little bit smaller. You are going to be home on the weekends. Some kids our students we've talked to at Clarkson, they really want to see some of these mega projects. So if that's what you're looking for, you want to work on a mega project or travel the world or travel the country, look for a different company. The culture you're looking for is a little bit different than the culture we offer, for example. And the other thing that I've done with students that haven't interned with us before, is I'll give them a 30-minute call. I'll set up a call with somebody in a role, that's 1 or 2 years out of school, that's worked for us for a couple years, and say, here, have a candid conversation with this person. Ask them the questions about culture and experience, because talking to me, is going to be a totally different answer on what I like about the company than what somebody who's doing the role right out of college. The answers will be very different. So, feel free to ask for that and say, hey, is there somebody in the role that went to my school or that, has performed in this, has the same degree as in the role or has worked in the role recently, and get some information from them. If a company's serious and their culture is what they say it is, they should have no problem introducing those folks to you.
So with that, one of the things I was, keying off of what Jeff and you were saying is that, there's nothing wrong with, going on LinkedIn and finding out somebody who worked at that company and send them a little email and say, "Hey, I see you work for Wesson. You're not there anymore. Tell me a little bit about this lovely company," right? Or somebody you might find out, hey, there's 3 people that you do that are from Clarkson that are there, named Jeff and Ashley and Mike Solon. I can go down the list. Jimmy Rowans, I can give you the list here, right? And say, hey, can I reach out to you and have a little quick conversation so I can understand more about what you do? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with just that simple thing and saying, and get them on the phone, have a little conversation. Maybe it's even an opportunity to shadow for a day, or as you say, do an internship or co-op with the Wesson Group. There's some wonderful experience. And really get to know them. Got to remember these are opportunities that not only for the company to kind of give you a long-term interview, it's also an opportunity if you get a chance to interview that company and understand what's going on. You get paid to do it. Not a bad deal. And you're going to find you may love it. You may find something that's different. And I respect specifically the Wesson Group that you're not upset when somebody says I want to go somewhere else. You feel like they've got a great experience for you. They're going to remember you. They're probably going to ask you to do things in the future. I think it's not truly altruistic because there's a goal for bettering the whole industry, which I think is great. But it does say a lot about the culture that you just want to see people grow and do great things in their future. So that's awesome.
You have a student right now, Eric, who interned with us for 2 summers, and then she decided to go elsewhere and look in the vertical industry. She wanted to see what it was like. Lovely. We just made her a job offer because she was still a great intern with us, and we're thrilled she got the experience, and we're talking through that now. I mean, just because you decide to go and learn something else or see what else is out there, it doesn't end a relationship, right? And that's the important thing too is, Jeff was talking about our aggressive program. We hire freshmen as interns because we want you to have multiple summers of experience. And I know some employers aren't so fond of that, but we love it because for us it just gives you a chance to see more and for us to see you grow, and it's a great opportunity.
So we got about 10 more minutes. I'll ask one question, but then really I would love to give you a few. One more question. I'll take 5 minutes to do that. And then, anything you want to add at the end, and then we'll close up. But one of my kind of questions is, if we think about where things are going in the future and what needs to be done to kind of grow, the industry needs good people, right? We need tradespeople, we need managers, we need engineers. The industry is starving for talent. It really needs it. So one of the questions I have for you is, what are the ways we're going to, as an industry, continue to evolve and change? It's already changing. How are we going to meet that moment? What are some thoughts about things that the industry still can do, that you're already maybe doing some of it, but things that you need, that are maybe stretch goals for you they haven't gotten to, that can make that difference to be able to make the industry even that much better? Oh,
Yeah,
Jeff
Dan.
or Ashley, either one, please.
Yeah, I'll let Jeff go first.
Well, Ash will know more about our engagement with development programs and things like that and trying to get awareness to what we do.
Yep.
I'd love to show people W-2 from a laborer or operator, what they make in a year, and I'm not knocking, higher education, Eric, but it's pretty impressive. And I think just trying to get the word out, of how great it is the biggest thing. We're engaging at high school level in BOCES, just getting the word out that just great careers in this industry, as early as possible. It's when you look at what's going on in New York State with the amount of resources needed to build a solar farm, and then all these solar farms going in, and then you're building Buffalo Bills Stadium, and then you're going to build the Micron plant, Syracuse, and every other road job that's going on. And it's really monumental, the task we have ahead of us to man all that. And gonna have to get creative, and gonna have to I think there's a lot of room for improvement there. I wish I did have the smoking gun, the crystal ball answer, but
Yeah.
gonna be a big hurdle.
Yeah, and Jeff hit the nail on the head too. We do a lot with high schools, both talking about the engineering side and the craft side, right? So we go in and we have a whole team of foremen and superintendents that go to BOCES programs to try to get kids into our industry and teach them about what the opportunities are. It's so much more than just, here you can be an operator. It's that communication. And so you'll see we spend a lot of time, and we're continuing to, and I know I've seen a couple people join the program. They're doing a lot more about what's a day in the life of construction. The DA Collins companies, I saw one of them on here. They do some great social media stuff about, hey, this is what happens with our aggregate company, and this is happening here, and this is what we're doing. And I think the more that we continue to share that day in the life on social medias, I mean, I haven't gotten my guys quite to TikTok yet. I don't know that I'm going to, but the more that we can kind of put that out there and show people, because I think that that's the misconception right now is people don't realize what prevailing wage means, or how much can go into a pension, or how great the benefit plan is, the training program. We have some of the unions we work with now offer vacation time. That never happened. A laborer never had vacation time, right? So just that communication, and trying to make sure that people understand that it's not the industry from 20 or 30 years ago is important.
Absolutely. As I think one of the things actually is, as you mentioned, you grew up in the industry
Mhm.
and you're in the industry. That used to be the way we kind of fit it, but less and less moms and dads are in the industry. So how do we get people to have the awareness of this, that this is a fantastic way to have a life, whether it be craft trade or the professional side? It doesn't really matter. There's a lot to be said for that. I mean, I'm another product of dad being a construction contractor. So off I went and did construction stuff. And so how does that translate? How do we think about that? But we got to figure out ways to do that. So great. Well, I want to thank both Ashley and Jeff for their time today. I also want to thank everyone who's with us today for joining us. I know we enjoyed the conversation. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Our next Profiles in Construction will be on Wednesday, November 19th at 12 p.m. with Jared Heidel. I want to give Ashley and Jeff one final word before we wrap up for the day.
My big thing is just get involved in the industry. I'm going to put a plug in for AGC. I know you guys have an AGC club up at Clarkson. We also have the AGC CLC. It's the Construction Leadership Council. So kind of the 40 and under group, an awesome group of people. Networking opportunities are huge within AGC. And I just think, the more you can get involved in things like that, CFMA, Construction Financial Management Association, and just, grow your background and network. It's a really great industry with a lot of great people.
Yeah, I just appreciate the opportunity to talk about my pretty much favorite topic, and that's people, um, and culture. Um, hope we gave you folks some good tips and some good ideas and thoughts, and again, appreciate the opportunity.
Great. Well, again, thank you. So as I was getting into, Jared, who I was mentioning will be on the next one on November 19th, is actually going to talk at this from a very different angle. Jared used to be a CEM faculty here at Clarkson, an adjunct. He's an '05 graduate at Clarkson, but he's now a principal at Beardsley Architects and Engineers down in Auburn. We'll be chatting about the role of the architect engineer in construction, an overview of the kind of typical contractual relations between the owner, the architect engineer, and a contractor or construction manager. An example of collaboration, conflict resolution. Ooh, conflict in construction, go figure, and other issues. So with that said, at Clarkson University, we build your future. Our construction engineering management program has programs in undergraduate and graduate education and boasts a 100% placement rate for all graduates year after year for well over a decade now. Clarkson University is a proven leader in technological education, research, innovation, and sustainable economic development. Clarkson faculty have a direct impact of more than 7,800 students annually through nationally recognized undergraduate and graduate STEM designated degrees in engineering, business, science, and health professions, executive education, industry relevant credentials, and K through 12 STEM programs. Alumni earn salaries among the top 2% in the nation. 1 in 5 is already leads at the C-suite. Looking at 2 of them right here to the call today. Please look us up online. We're at clarkson.edu/CEM. And please enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much.